Hello everyone. In this video we are going to go over Module 3's project assignment. This week we're going to focus on sign-on and confirmation graphics. After reading the first paragraph that talks about why we're doing this assignment now, you can scroll down to the steps that are needed. You'll see the first one is, step 1 is to open A4 version of your template in Illustrator. I've decided to go with an Android version, and you'll see that some of the templates have multiple files or pages in them. There are some that have sideways, single vertical views, scrolling views, and we might be using some of these for future assignments. For right now, depending on whether or not you want the white background or a more transparent background, it's up to you. I'm perfectly fine if for this week you decide to just use the single device right here, which is vertical. However, you can do vertical and horizontal. It is not a requirement for this week, though. And you can, of course, we want to create some sort of background regardless, so it'll be, up to you in terms of which one you want to use. I'll probably just use the solid one, number 11 or page 11. So I'm going to go to Illustrator. Just got to open the template, and go to the page that I want to use. Here we go. And of course I always want to talk very nicely to Illustrator, keep her happy. I'm going to lock this layer because I never really want to edit anything on the first layer. I want to just build up the layers. Another thing that's really important is to go to File, and I think it's going to be under Document Setup. Nope, it's going to be under Document Color Mode. Make sure it's set up for RGB. Another thing to test is if you have issues creating any sort of color. I'm going to create a new layer to start, but let's just say I want to do something red. You'll see that I had no problem with the red showing up, but there might be an issue with some of your files where if you try to create a certain color, it doesn't show up correctly, or it's grayscale. I can go under Color, and that was just under Window and then Color. And once this panel loads, up here in the far right hand side, there's a little panel, and I can change that to a different color. So if you happen to have a grayscale, definitely check there. I'm going to just delete this for now because I don't need it. And I'm going to go back to the assignments. And it wants me to create 4 new layers. The reason why it wants me to create 4 new layers is we're going to use one composition, one Illustrator file, to do a variety of different sign-on features. We're going to do a home screen, a log off, a confirmation notice, and a denial notification. So you might want to name each one of your layers based off of what they're going to be. So if I went back here, I could call layer 2 the home screen. Layer 2 would then be log off. And guess I can say denial. Denial doesn't seem to be the right word. It's more like an error. I guess you're just not allowed to access, so denial will work. Save often, really important. Go to File, Save As, all that good stuff. And obviously you want to call it more than just week 3. And right now it's being saved as a PDF, so I made a mistake here. I need to go back to Save As And I need to change this from a PDF to an Illustrator file. There we go. Everything's good now. And of course, when it comes to exporting each graphic, you're going to have to select one individually, turn the eye off, on and off, and then go to File, Save, Exports, go under JPEG, and then you can save each one individually. So for this week, you're going to be turning in either your Illustrator file, which should have all of the different layers of these elements that you're going to be working on, as well as 4 different JPEGs, one for each layer. So since I'm going to probably start with layer 1, the home screen, of course, I can turn off the eyes for all those, and I want to make sure that the lock is not turned on. I, want to create some sort of background. Feel free to work off of what you did during week 2. This is going to be really quickly done, so it's not going to look great. Black's a terrible background. There we go. And obviously I'd want to zoom in closer. I'd want to make sure all my notifications are still at the top. And again, I would zoom in better, because this is very sloppily done, but you know what, we're going to leave it as is for right now. And again, I'd have notifications up here, and then what I would want to do is my home screen. So for your device, you want a sign on component, username and password. Doesn't have to be a username and password per se, and you can look at the textbook. You can see understanding our users. That'll be page 108. Different visual examples. And I can go directly to sign on. And I'm just trying to find some graphics. This is kind of bad in terms of the quality. So this is some examples of possible sign-ons. And this could be, for an application. You can see sign on to purchase, username, password. Here's another example, create your account. Here's another one, so if you wanted to create more of a pin type device, you could. So this one's pretty much up to you. Number A, or letter A, and D, you could have some fun with. And a log off interface design, you could do the home screen of your computer, or not your computer, of your mobile device. So for example, on my Android, in order to log in, I have to do a PIN. So if you wanted to do something like that, you could, or you could do something to like log into a device. Completely up to you. And then of course, how my log off feature would look is it would just sort of show like the lock panel. That's a possibility. Or you could go to some sort of device that either says you've signed off. Let me go back to the table of contents. Exit guard, timeout. Definitely look at those elements, as they'll really help you visually see what timeouts could look like. You could show a pie chart, or a pie chart of like cut out almost like Pac-Man of how much time you have left. You could have the black light turn on. Those are all possibilities. You could have a pop-up saying you're about to be logged out if you don't sign back in. So like no activity detected. That's a possibility of what you could do for B. And then of course the C, the confirmation, letting users know that they were logged out successfully. You can just say, you can take them back to the home page if you wanted to. That's usually a telltale sign. Or no activity will lock in 16 seconds is a possibility. So a countdown timer is another option. And here's an example of, the account being locked. So sign in to continue. So if I were to go back to the start, I could come up with some sort of design like page 118, and you don't have to do this exactly. It's completely up to you in terms of how you want to do it. You'll want to make sure you include text though. And I'm just trying to see how large this text currently is. And definitely feel free to design it. You can change your stroke, and of course this is where working on multiple layers is always helpful as well. Yep, so I'd ideally want to work in multiple layers, otherwise I'd drive myself batty, because I'm going to keep locking the background, or I'm going to keep clicking on the background. I don't really want to do that. And then I could do password, and again that's where I'd want to create or at least copy the other background that I did. Let me just try to do it that way. Again, this is very, very quickly done. Yours will obviously take a lot more time, and you might not want to make it this large. There's so many different factors to think of, and spacing wise, there's issues right there. And then I could have like a button to log in, or I could have the login button right here. Remember to make the most of the space. I wouldn't say continue. I mean, I would have login button somewhere versus just continue. That seems to be more typical, but again, it's up to you. You'll notice that, be sure to add text to the sign-in and to notification interface designs that explain to the user what they need to do, such as sign-in directions. You could also include a link to forgot your password. That's another possibility. If their sign-in was successful or not. And you'll notice that this is going to be a reoccurring trend in terms of arrange the graphics appropriately for your template, thinking of overall screen size, any potential backgrounds. For the most part, within any sort of sign-in page, you're going to want to keep the backgrounds probably flat design in a solid color, something neutral, so that way the user can focus on the task at hand, which of course is logging into something. I could, then just create some buttons down here, maybe just to log in. You could do like a forgot your password, maybe just as a text. Problem with forgot password, it's really, really long, so I'm gonna have to figure out where I want to put that. It's usually right under here. And of course, then I would want to add some text in here that would say login. So this could be, my home screen. And again, I'd put a lot more time into this. and then I can turn my eye off, lock that layer, move on to the log off screen, and then I could start to work on my log off. And then I can go back to my textbook, and I could go to, well, once my textbook loads. And this is the exit guard, which isn't exactly what we want. But you might want to use something like this, like log off, like exit now. Like if you try to hit the back button, you can see, the application will exit in a few seconds. That's more used in gaming versus just like the traditional app, such as like your email. So what you might want is to just have some text, of whatever this device is. And then, within it, you would have, maybe I'll use a different color for the log off. I would just have like a wall of text. This would be like the application itself. And again, this would actually be real text that, consists of something. And then maybe toward the bottom I would have some sort of log off button, possibly. Like I could have like a continue or a back, even though this is typical. Users know to hit this to go back, so it could be continue. I could have like a log off button somewhere here as well. Or maybe what I'll do is just show like the actual design of whatever they're looking at. And then I can create like an exit guard that, would be like a transparent little box that pops up. And of course this isn't transparent by any means, so I'd change this opacity. And then I could have some text here that would be like an exit guard saying, are you sure you want to log off? That's a possibility. And then what you can do is have another pop-up like on the home page, or you can just redirect them to the home page and somehow let them know that they've been successfully logged off. And then of course the denial could be your password isn't correct. Check out, on your mobile device. Go to a couple of your websites that you visit often where you have an account. Log in a few times and see what happens when it says that, you didn't enter your information correctly. And again, do go through this book. Use it as you work on this week's assignment. It will greatly, greatly help you because it does give you a lot of visual examples. They're not always the best. They're not very modern, but they do the job really well. And as always, if you happen to have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Have a wonderful week.